Blacklist Hunter here, and today we're going to talk about a character who doesn't get appreciated in any shape or form, a underrated fighter in Hunter x Hunter verse, and that is Kastro. Now you might say Kastro got easily defeated by Hisoka. Well, that is kinda true, but in reality it's not that simple. Kastro was introduced in the Heaven's Arena arc, and throughout him we saw Hisoka the Magician in action for the first time. We know that 2 years before the fight, Kastro fought Hisoka and managed to actually hit and score a knockdown on him, which we have to point out that nobody had managed to do so against Hisoka before. That is actually impressive, and we can deduce that Hisoka saw something in Kastro and let him live, because we know that Kastro was way weaker in that first encounter with the deadly clown. Hisoka saw potential in him, and he may have sensed Kastro was a kind spirit. I say this because in the Hunter exam, Kurapika told Gon when asked why Hisoka let him live, Kurapika states that Hisoka may have sensed that they were kindred spirits, both Gon and Leorio. So basically Hisoka has so much experience and is such a good judge of character. At the first glance he can read people like a book. So Kastro passed Hisoka's test, and we know Hisoka is so smart and has such intuition and observation skills that he even developed a Nen personality test by which he can tell what Nen affinity a person has. So Kastro definitely had potential as a fighter. After getting defeated by Hisoka, he trained a lot in order to get revenge, and he definitely got a lot stronger. Kastro became so strong that he won 9 fights in a row in Heaven's Arena, and if he had won one more, he could have challenged a floor master, and I actually believe he could have won if he got through Hisoka. I believe Kastro fought skilled Nen users, not like Gido or Sadaso which Gon and Killua fought. So Kastro gave an interview before the rematch with the Magician, and he stated that he is a new man, different from 2 years ago, and this got Killua interested, so he went and sneaked in to catch a glimpse on Kastro. He sees Kastro sitting in the room, and suddenly he is behind him. Killua is shocked on how Kastro did that so fast and says he wants an autograph, but Kastro already knew him and Gon since he kept a close eye on all his potential future opponents. Even Killua stated that Kastro was very impressive, and what's even more cool, Kastro had been keeping track of Killua's aura and presence since before he came close to the room Kastro was in. So Kastro clearly has some skill. He is actually very skilled. However, I'm not sure if Kastro used N to keep track of Killua's aura and presence. Next, we finally see the rematch of Hisoka and Kastro. Everyone is excited to see this fight, and Kastro says to Hisoka that he is grateful to him because if it hadn't been for Hisoka's initiation, he wouldn't have gotten that strong. While Hisoka, as we know, with a cool comeback says to him who got strong now, provoking Kastro of course. Furthermore, Kastro states that in every single of 9 fights he won in a row, he never got serious and he was saving it for Hisoka. Kastro goes for an attack and manages to land a clean hit on Hisoka, while the clown is surprised on how Kastro did that because he was certain he evaded the attack. Kastro then says to Hisoka to get serious and that he is not the same man he was 2 years ago, while Hisoka, still with the sharp responses, says that he decides when he gets serious. This fight was seriously underrated. I actually love this fight a lot. It is really amazing. Kastro next goes for the attack again, which Hisoka dodges but still gets hit. Hisoka still couldn't figure out how Kastro is doing that at this point. Kastro was still on the offensive. He kicks Hisoka from the front, which Hisoka blocks, and suddenly Kastro appears behind him, which Hisoka, as perceptive as he is, feels the presence behind him, but he is ultimately knocked down, which then gives Kastro the lead points 4-0. The thing is, Hisoka at this point still wasn't being serious, but we can't take away the fact that Kastro fought pretty skillfully, attacking Hisoka swiftly and with such speed and power that he landed strong hits on Hisoka and he couldn't even figure out what's going on. The fight continues and Kastro tells Hisoka to get serious or he will die in ignorance, while Hisoka keeps on describing what he saw on how Kastro was in front of him and suddenly he vanished, but still Hisoka says that that was not the accurate description and something was missing. Next, the fight gets even more serious. Kastro declares that he will take Hisoka's arm next, so he activates activates his aura, which is really impressive, and he powers up his ultimate attack, the Tiger Bite Fist, which even Killua states that a master can cut a tree in half with this technique, and in reality Kastro could use this technique very well. And then Killua states that if Hisoka doesn't figure out Kastro's ability, he may get killed. So even Killua was concerned about Hisoka, so Kastro definitely had some potential, and he certainly was displaying good skills. Hisoka puts his arm forward and tells Kastro to take it, while Kastro, confused, attacks and takes his right arm instead. Kastro did the opposite of what Hisoka wanted, and Hisoka still stated that all of this was within expectations, and then he finally figured out what Kastro's ability was, a double, which Kastro immediately activates and then shows and displays his trump ability to everyone, confusing everybody. Hisoka had felt the presence of a double in a split second. We know Hisoka is on another level, but it's so impressive on how Kastro activates the ability so skillfully and executes it in such manner that even Hisoka wasn't able to figure it out easily. That really takes some skill and precision, which adds to Kastro's strength. He is not weak at all, but he did make some bad decisions. He managed to create a Nen double, which he sends in for the attack while he hides in the shadows. Hisoka finally decides to get a little bit more serious, while Kastro states that he will take the left arm next. Next, Hisoka displays his magician skills and covers the arm and sends it flying above, attaching it up in the ceiling while the cards appear all around him, each connected to Hisoka's aura. Hisoka plays psychological tricks by doing a math quiz, and he brings out the answer by pulling a card out of the torn arm. He then throws the card at Kastro, ultimately completing his plan. Kastro didn't even use Gyo. If he had, he could have seen the whole plan of Hisoka, which was explained in detail later. Hisoka then offers his other arm to Kastro, which Kastro then rips his remaining arm. I gotta say, Togashi is on another level. All his characters are so well written. Hisoka continues to do even more psychological damage to Kastro by revealing his arm all clean, just like nothing happened, saying that if Kastro had attacked with a double, he would have counterattacked with that arm, which was like nothing had happened, a new arm. It was at this point that Kastro began losing the psychological battle and was easily provoked. If Kastro had stayed calm and observed in detail with Gyo, he could have actually had some chance to, let's say, beat Hisoka. Hisoka continues to throw Kastro off by taunting him, and that Kastro is confused by his magic, and he did realize that Hisoka was using Nen, but he still had forgotten much of Nen by focusing on one thing that wasn't his speciality as an enhancer. Hisoka continues to do even more psychological damage by telling him his double is amazing, but he knows the trick now and he can counter it easily, and that Kastro did have a lot of talent, but the way he is going to die, he is going to dance himself to death. That really threw Kastro off, and to keep it simple, Kastro attacked with a double. Hisoka dodged all the attacks and pointed out to Kastro that he can't reproduce the effects of the battle like blood and damage, so he can easily tell which is the double. Kastro then goes on for the attack, ultimately getting stunned by Hisoka's arm, which was attached to his chin with bungee gum. Next, Hisoka uses the cards to attack, which were also attached to Kastro, and he tried to block, but it was useless as he couldn't produce the double because he wasn't in a good state of mind. Ultimately, he got pierced with the cards, losing the fight. Kastro was certainly strong as an enhancer. I believe he could beat most average Nen users. He won 9 fights in a row. His Tiger Bite Fist was certainly dangerous, and if Kastro had focused on enhancement alone, he would be ridiculously strong. Kastro went the wrong route by focusing on conjuration and manipulation, which he did train a lot, and that required immense skill and talent, which even Hisoka praised him for his talent, but he, as Hisoka stated, he squandered his memory capacity. Kastro had a lot of potential and clearly was an excellent Nen user, while the only bad thing about him was his mental fortitude. He wasn't that strong mentally and could easily get thrown off balance by mere psychological tricks. Even though enhancers have 60% proficiency in learning conjuration and manipulation, Kastro managed to create the double and was able to activate it in an impressive speed and manner, which even made Hisoka have trouble figuring it out. Kastro was able to attack with insane speed, and he activated the ability remarkably really well, and it was really impressive. The thing is, he was fighting Hisoka, whom as we know is a Nen genius and a monster. Kastro did train very intensively for 2 years, and he did create an impressive ability, but he forgot the real deal, enhancement, which was his affinity. If he had practiced in that, he would be certainly very dangerous. He had a lot of potential. He is even able to make the double activate the Tiger Bite Fist, which could defeat any normal Nen user in close range easily. Kastro could have been a monster, but he did make the wrong choice, creating a complicated ability which, as good as it was, wasn't the best choice for him. And he even forgot the basics of Nen, but he really had incredible potential. He was a really cool character, and I really enjoyed this beautiful fight when I first read it and when I watched it. And I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these types of videos, consider subscribing and check out my other Hunter related content.